Thanks for joining us. Today I have Chris Locke from Federal, who's going to talk to us about one of their coolest new innovations, and that is the 30 Super Carry. So this video is dropping. That means you've seen the news. 30 Super Carry is the new thing from Federal.
So it was designed to fill a specific need we saw within the concealed carry or personal defense market, right? Within that, there's kind of, within typical carry calibers, right? There's two major categories terminally. You got kind of everything up to and including 380, and then you got this huge gap in performance, a big jump to 9mm, and then everything kind of 9mm and up where you get small incremental gains.
Right.
So terminally you have this big gap in performance, but then for people actually carrying, there's a pretty significant difference in size and convenience of carrying between a 380 and a 9. So There's also a pretty good gap there. So what we wanted to do was find something that got in that gap and kind of help close that space up with something both terminally and from a carry standpoint.
Okay.
So that was really the idea, was to create an in-between type of caliber. We are pleasantly surprised to see that we're right up against 9mm, so that the performance exceeded our expectations from what we first set out to do. And what we're finding is we created a new cartridge. It's a smaller diameter than a 9mm.
So let's put that into perspective. The 9mm bullet size is nominally
355,
and the 30 Super Carry is nominally
about 312.
312. Okay.
So a little bit smaller diameter, but the same about overall length as a 9mm Luger. So we still have a good amount of case capacity. We can load it hot and get some velocity out of it. That little projectile likes to dance, so we can make it do some pretty great stuff. So that the terminal performance of it is right up against 9. You're seeing 9mm type muzzle energies and expansions and penetration depths that are very similar to 9. So the other benefit, of course, is that it being a smaller diameter, you can fit more rounds in the gun.
Ballistically, not really giving anything up.
And actually, some products in market in that 115 grain range, it's actually outperforming those pretty readily.
Okay.
So it's kind of getting right up against where a 124 does. And again, that's with a 100 grain HST projectile. Right here, what we did was the FBI heavy clothing barrier. So that's a t-shirt, dress shirt, fleece, and a layer of down. And a little more realistic depiction than the 4 layers of denim used to be. So once you're going through that barrier, it slows down that initiation of the hollow point just slightly. You get a little bit more of a neck, and the bullet is still entering at that velocity, right? But now it's got one more thing to go through. So it slows down the initiation of the hollow point just that little bit. Still get big, beautiful upsets, not as big as bare gel, but we do have a spec for both. They still get big, beautiful upsets, but you have a little bit more energy left and a little bit less resistance, so you can get a little bit deeper penetration. In bare gel, the hollow point fills with tissue right away and puts pressure on the internal walls of the hollow point right away and starts to crack it open and initiate that hollow point expansion. So you'll typically see bigger offsets and a little bit less penetration. So the round starts initiating right away, gets a little bigger. Because it's bigger, you have more resistance through the tissue, and you're using more energy to get big, and little less is left in the penetration depth.
The same pistol. It's a Smith & Wesson Shield EZ. Single stack magazine. We have 8 rounds in the 9. We have 10 rounds in the 30 Super Carry. Other than that, the pistols are dimensionally identical. I'm going to shoot the 9mm first. I want you to look at the gun. I want you to look at the way the gun moves in my hand. And then I'm going to shoot the 30 Super Carry. And again, I want you to look at it so that you can compare and contrast. So now I'm loading the 30 Super Carry, 10 versus 8, and it's the same grain weight bullet, 115 grain projectile. I shot both of them, 115 grain projectile, different circumference, same overall length. Guys, I really couldn't tell much of a difference at all. If I was hard pressed, I'd say that the 30 Super Carry was a little more abrupt but it didn't push as much. Other than that, you saw for yourself, pretty much identical, 115 grain bullets, super easy to shoot, real easy to control the recoil. I'm really excited to shoot this a little bit more. Now let's talk price point for just a minute.
The goal was to try and hit a price point that wasn't totally shocking, right? So it ends up being pretty close to a 380 to manufacture. So we priced it right on top of 380 so that we could, it's going to be more than 9, to your point, because of efficiencies and just volume.
There's not
right?
the efficiency.
And I think people kind of expect that.
Sure.
380, you just, even though there's maybe a little less material in the 380, you're just not running with those types of rates, so it costs more to make it. So the 380, especially target loads, cost a little more. The personal defense loads, because we make them at slower volumes with more precision, from one to the next, it's a little closer. So it's going to be pretty close. Like an HST is going to be pretty close to 9 because the 380 is pretty close to 9 as well. Once you get into target, big volumes, just that lower price point on the shelf, it's going to be right where the 380 is. So you'll see like a super carry American Eagle right where a 380 American Eagle would be.
When you want to build something and you want it to have legs, you need to have options out of the gate. So right out of the gate, you have, I believe, six offerings?
6 SKUs are going to hit market right away. So there's going to be 2 from Federal, an American Eagle and an HST. There's going to be 2 out of our Lewiston locations, so Spear CCI, a Spear Gold Dot, and a CCI Blaze Brass.
Okay.
And then Remington's going to do a couple as well. So there's going to be a UMC for target, and then their HTP, kind of an opening price point, but a different price point for personal defense.
Okay.
So it's not all the bells and whistles at a full premium primer, mouth seal, nickel case. So you take some of those things away and get a little bit different price point for people.
We have 3, we're going to call them performance loads then?
Yep,
and
defensive loads.
And 3 ball loads, basically.
Yep.
And are those calibrated so that the Federal American Eagle is going to give you a good training alternative to the HST?
Correct. Yeah. The profiles of the bullets between the carry, defensive load and the target load, the profiles are going to be almost identical, very, very similar. And then the velocities are loaded to are matched up.
Okay.
So you get a training equivalent.
Yeah. It's an equivalent. It's going to hit the same point of target. You can sight it in, and then you can go ahead and use that.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very specific application for this cartridge, right? So we wanted to make sure that if somebody's going to carry it, they can train with that exact same firearm that they would be carrying with a training equivalent, and do it a little more cost effective.
That is really forward thinking. That's wonderful. So not only do we have 6 different SKUs in ammo, right out of the gate, we have a couple of options in pistols too. So a couple of the pistol manufacturers have jumped on board really early. But the early ones, and the ones I shot today, I was able to shoot a Nighthawk, which we were getting groups hovering around 1 inch with the more premium loads, with the HST and the Gold Dot and the Blazer. And when you're shooting a Nighthawk versus shooting a production polymer gun, there's going to be a difference in groups. But even with a very short polymer production gun, we were still getting groups right around 3 inches at 25 yards, which is great accuracy out of a short gun in a dimly lit tunnel with brand new ammo. I mean, you guys really did your homework. So, how long does it take you guys to develop something like this?
This one, by the time we're talking today, it's been a couple of years. So it depends on the complexities of it. But it was interesting because it became very timely for us too, because of the proliferation of high capacity ultra compact 9mm and the popularity of the new shooters, right, and the popularity of handguns and defensive handguns and that type of use.
Right.
Everything that happened during that time with the virus and social unrest, it's all these things that kind of created that need in the market.
Right, and this round is really ideal for this new generation of micro 9mm. It really is optimized, so when you say 30 super carry, it really is designed for these carry guns. And the supers, because it's coming out pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty smoking. So it's a higher pressure than a 9mm, which is probably why we haven't understood ammo development enough to be able to utilize that. We're able to do things now because of all these hyper 9mm bullets, all this development we've done. We understand ammunition and how it works in the way today that you couldn't have built this cartridge 20 years ago. You just couldn't have done it.
So a modern cartridge that was designed specifically for these modern handguns, and it really is optimized. So if you're in the market for a new carry cartridge, new carry pistol, 30 Super Carry from our friends at Federal,